When people asked how we handled money, I always said the same thing. We're a team. It wasn't something I rehearsed, it just came out naturally, the way you talk about something you're sure of. We didn't keep score. We didn't split things down the middle with calculators and apps. We pooled, we planned, we trusted. He earned a little more than I did, but it never felt like a hierarchy. When I apologized once for not contributing as much, he waved it off. "What's mine is yours," he said. "That's kind of the point." I believed him, not because I was naive, but because his life matched his words. He talked about the future casually, like it was already happening. Vacations we'd take when things settled down, a bigger place someday. He even joked about how boring we'd become. We shared passwords without thinking about it. His laptop, my phone. Our bank app sat on both devices, logged in, unprotected. Not because we were careless, because it didn't occur to us that we'd need protection from each other. Money to us was practical, a means, something you dealt with and moved on from. If one of us forgot a transfer or overspent a little, it wasn't a fight, just a comment in passing. "Hey, can you move some money over later?" "Yeah, of course." Easy. Normal. That's what made everything else feel stable, even when we argued about small things, dishes, schedules, moods. The foundation felt solid. We were adults. We handled things. And if I'm honest, there was comfort in that, in not worrying, in assuming the person beside you would never pull the floor out from under you. I didn't know yet how much of my sense of safety lived inside that assumption. The first thing that went missing wasn't money. Not exactly. It was a feeling. He started staying out later, saying work was busy. I didn't question it. Busy made sense. It always had. When he came home distracted, quieter than usual, I chalked it up to stress. Then, one afternoon, I opened the kitchen drawer where we kept cash for groceries and small expenses. It was lighter than I expected. "Did you take some cash?" I asked. Not suspicious, just curious. "Oh," he said, barely looking up from his phone. "Yeah, I needed some earlier. I'll replace it." That was it. That was the whole conversation. Later came a delayed transfer, then another. Small enough not to panic over, just enough to notice. I remember standing in the kitchen, phone in my hand, looking at the app, wondering if I'd misremembered the balance. I checked the date, checked the transactions. Everything looked normal. When I mentioned it, he smiled in that reassuring way that made me feel silly for even asking. "You're probably just thinking of a different account," he said. "Don't worry about it." So I didn't. That's the thing about trust. It fills in the gaps before doubt can. The notification came on a Tuesday morning. I remember because I was half awake, already running late, scrolling through my phone without really seeing it. The message didn't look dramatic, just a standard alert from the bank. Transaction completed. I tapped it out of habit. Then I sat up. The number was wrong. Too small. Almost empty. I refreshed the app. Once, twice. My heart started to beat faster, not in panic yet, but confusion. There were transfers I didn't recognize. Large ones. Clean. Deliberate. No notes attached. I tried to call him. Straight to voicemail. I told myself there was an explanation, a mistake, a temporary move, something I'd agreed to and forgotten. I got dressed quickly, hands shaking just enough to make buttons difficult. On my way out the door, I grabbed my card to pay for coffee, still clinging to routine. The card was declined. The sound it made was quiet, polite. The barista didn't even look annoyed, just glanced up and said, "Sorry, it didn't go through." I laughed, embarrassed, and tried another account. Also declined. That was the moment my body reacted before my mind caught up. A a tightness in my chest, a hollow feeling behind my eyes. I stepped outside, sat on the curb, and opened my phone again. The balance hadn't changed. I called him again, texted. Nothing. It wasn't until hours later, sitting alone in our apartment, that the realization settled in, slow and heavy. He hadn't just left. He'd taken everything with him. The money was the loudest loss, but it wasn't the only one. He took time, plans, the version of the future I'd been quietly organizing in my head. He took the safety of assuming tomorrow would look roughly like today. He took my ability to explain what happened without feeling foolish. When friends noticed he wasn't around anymore, I said things like, "We're figuring things out," or "He needed some space." I didn't say, "He drained our account and disappeared." There was a shame in it I hadn't expected. Not because I'd done something wrong, but because I'd trusted someone so completely. I replayed conversations in my head, searching for signs I'd missed. Jokes about money, casual comments about feeling trapped. Nothing obvious stood out. If there were clues, they were hidden in normalcy. I spent days on logistics, canceling subscriptions, calling banks, moving what little I had left into places he couldn't reach. At night, the emotional weight hit harder. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to reconcile the man who kissed my forehead goodbye with the one who emptied our life and vanished. I didn't hate him. That surprised me. I felt stunned, exposed, smaller somehow. It's a strange thing to realize that someone didn't just betray your trust, they repurposed it, used it efficiently. I never got a real explanation. There was no final message, no apology, no confrontation. Just silence, stretched out over days, then weeks, then months. I learned how to live smaller for a while, how to budget with caution instead of comfort, how to check balances twice, how to sit with uncertainty without letting it swallow me whole. People asked if I was angry. I wasn't, not in the way they expected. Anger requires a kind of clarity, a villain, a scene. What I had was awareness. I understood now how trust can be quiet, how loss doesn't always announce itself loudly, and how survival sometimes looks like continuing without answers. I still think about him occasionally, not with longing, not with rage, just with a distant curiosity, like remembering a place you once lived and don't fully recognize anymore. He took money, he took stability, but he didn't take my ability to rebuild, slowly and without spectacle. And maybe that's all the justice there is, not in what happens to them, but in what you learn to carry forward without them.